Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator. What he's doing with this Chris dude, I have no idea.
I gave her cigarettes for our anniversary one year.
There you go. That's fucking romantic.
She didn't like gifts. I said, well, I want to get you something. What do you want? Let's give me a couple packs of cigarettes. So I wrapped them up and gave them to her.
Yeah, have some lung cancer.
You got a dead Bigfoot that's just been shot, hanging upside down in a tree. Though Meldrum was also careful to note, it's not a course about Bigfoot.
It's a course about Fozzie Bear. Who's Fozzie Bear? Some say his father was half grizzly. Nobody believed he was real. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a Muppet. To me, that was better than being president of the United States.
They upped my meds last night, so anything's possible. We're laughing at a story about dead people. I can't explain it, but it sure makes me feel like the spirits are happy.
I mean, I guess you could say it might have been somebody's hand moving real quick, but it's not a fucking ghost.
The jury's still out on that.
See, your hoaxes come at you with smiles. They come as your friends.
Pope Francis says doggy heaven is real, so your dog has a soul.
Ah, so now the dogs can hang out with the pedophiles.
Not Benedict, Francis, Pope Francis.
No, I'm just guilt by association, Steve.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's what they say when they talk about me and you.
Yeah, there you go. Good evening, and welcome to the Fortean Slip. This is episode 72, the Joan Get Me a Snapple episode. Tonight,
It always makes me laugh.
we take a look at the field of cryptozoology and research in general. Why? I don't fucking know, but it seemed like the good thing to do. When you've spent your entire Saturday night drinking your face off with your family, and you come home hungover, this is what you get. So, I had gotten in touch with Steve this morning. We weren't sure what we were going to do today. Steve's in the process of moving, and he's in a fucking concert hall.
I like my concert hall, though.
Jesus Christ, you need to put some shit on the wall. Get a fucking rug in there.
Empty room, secluded from the rest of the house. Nobody can see me or hear me, except for, our YouTube friends. And, they can't even see me. They can hear me, though. I turned the gain down on the mic, but I don't know how much that'll help. So we'll get through it, Chris, and maybe next week I'll have, some soundproofing in here.
Yeah, it'll be all good for the show in the long run. We won't hear fucking Steve's dog drinking water anymore. Nobody will be fucking making dinner in the background.
My son asking me silly questions when he knows I'm doing a show. Yeah, that kind of thing. The phone.
Oh no, I fully expect the door to open.
I can put locks on them. Hold on, maybe they have them.
Oh boy, here we go.
They do have locks, except this room has 3 entrances, and one only has a curtain over it right now, so I have to get a door for that one. So no matter what I do, somebody can still come in here. But I'm proud to be able to, 1 year ago today, there was no way on earth I was going to be able to own a home, and today I am officially a homeowner, and I am very proud that I was able to make that happen. If I can do it, man, anybody can do it. So it's all good.
Yeah, and ultimately, like I was saying, in the long run, once Steve gets the room all set up, it'll be good for the show. But yeah, I went out last night for my cousin's 40th birthday party. Happy birthday to him. And had a pretty awesome fucking time up there. But I wasn't sure how I was going to fare today. And nobody did any real research. So I thought, hey, why don't we just talk about something that's, about the same?
I didn't do any research this way because I was painting my whole house green screen. So
that's so that Steve can be filmed in any room and wind up anywhere in the universe.
I'm serious though. If you see the color of my house, now I love it. It looks really good on the walls, but it's green screen green is what it is. My entire house, except for this room. This room is not green screen yet.
Getting there.
Yes.
So recently, I had done a show with David about the validity of the evolution of some of the cryptids. Like, we had gone through, and we tried to stay away from Bigfoot. We were trying to go off on tangents, like more into like Mothman, Chupacabra, the oddities, the ones that aren't so much plausible, I would say. You know, Bigfoot's kind of plausible. There were large apes that roamed the planet at one point in time, or ape-like creatures that were not like what we are or what gorillas or other great apes are today. And like the Loch Ness monster, another thing that could easily be something from before. But some of these other creatures, to me, are just, you know, too outside of the, or too fantastical, I guess you could say, to fit into the mold of what I would consider the, you know, the evolutionary chain. It would be really hard for me to see where it got there, I guess.
Right.
We were talking with Fred about, you know, drawing cryptids and, you know, how hard it is for him to, you know, figure out, like, for example, you know, Mothman, like a humanoid or, you know, a creature like that with wings. And, you know, it presents all kinds of problems. You know, how does this thing fucking fly? How does it, you know? So I tended to go down the road with that it's, you know, you have to take that leap of supernatural with a lot of those things. But what I wanted to talk about was cryptozoology research in general. And we had touched on this the other night the other morning on the news with the my comment about finding Bigfoot. You know, if the fucking cast of Finding Bigfoot would find a fucking broom closet squatchy. And
Right.
that comment isn't just for them. It's indicative to the whole genre, and not just Bigfoot. Anyone who is listening to a meowing cat in the background.
I know, even though I'm in a secluded room, but the animals can still get in here because there's a curtain hanging over one of the doorways right now. So I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
We tried. I tried my damnedest.
So, but the research that goes on in these fields, I don't consider it research. Mm-mm. Just like I don't consider a guy who watches football and then the next day acts like he's a fucking NFL correspondent to be, you know, I just don't consider that the same. It's, you know, the people who do research in these areas, hardly anyone is anything. I mean, no one has any credentials, really. Very few people have any type of credentials that are out there doing any research. The people,
how many actual scientists?
The people that do, you know, like your fucking Jeff Meldrums, your Dr. Brian Sykes. A lot of these guys, in the past like year or so, like they've been so fucking wishy-washy.
Right.
It's just been like, what is this? Okay, we found what the Yeti may be. It's a mixture between a fucking polar bear and a fucking regular bear or a grizzly bear or some shit. And now they're coming back and saying, well, maybe not. All I find in these communities is a bunch of people who throw out horse shit. They know it's horse shit, and all they do is promote it so that they can get their name out there, sell books, go on fucking, you know, speaking circuits, you know, go I'll do speaking engagements and make fucking money. We've all questioned what the fuck happened with Jeff Meldrum with Todd Standing, and nobody's gotten a clear answer.
Not even close to a clear answer. And he basically told everybody to fuck off.
Yeah.
On his Facebook page, people were questioning him, and he's, I've answered what I'm going to answer, fuck off. He didn't say it in those words, but
he might as well have.
He did it. He might as well have. And to me, that's not, if you're an honest individual, and I've always admired Dr. Meldrum. I mean, if you have, something that you want done with foot morphology, he's probably the guy to go to still. However, with this whole Todd Standing bullshit, and I'm sure there's others. I mean, the Falcon Project's a little wishy-washy if you ask me.
Yep.
Why does he need to get into any of that stuff? Do it on your own merits, He's got the credentials, so he should be doing this based on his knowledge. Now, he rarely goes out in the field. And when he does, with Todd Standing, he happens to have some sort of sighting. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And it either we get thrown hoaxes that are blatant hoaxes, or they're hoaxes that are where they try to fucking slip one past the goalie, but nothing ever, for me, ever really pans out. There's very little evidence that comes down the pipe where we're like, wait a minute, this could be something. Like, in the past fucking 2 years when we've been doing this show, have you seen one piece of evidence, Bigfoot, Mothman, Chupacabra, whatever related, that you could say, yeah, this is the fucking thing that makes it still worthwhile?
Off the record, I have seen a photo. I can't say who from. I'll tell you after the show, but maybe. Other than that, not really. Nothing in the public view or the public eye that I would even consider anything more than garbage.
And something that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you're willing to talk about it, Steve, but
Sure.
let's go back to the big Provo Canyon Bigfoot.
I think I'm ready to talk a little bit about that one.
Okay, so we had this fucking huge video that went fucking viral of this supposed Bigfoot. I don't know what the fuck it was doing. It looks like it was taking a shit. I honestly don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be doing. But, this thing went crazy. And you have tons of people promoting the fuck out of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in comes Mr. Steve Alcorn. And Steve, for the record, has never said anything about this publicly that I know of.
Very little.
So I'll kind of throw it to you, Steve. You can kind of say what you want to say on the matter.
Well, I mean, I was pretty new to Facebook and Bigfoot research part of it, the communities and all that. I was also new to YouTube and all the blogs. I had been doing some Bigfoot research on my own for a while, but I hadn't been into it. So when the Provo thing came out, I looked at it, and my cat is still meowing. Stupid cat. And that's the one that always does it too. But anyway, I looked at this video, and my first thoughts on it were, something ain't right with that. So being what I am, I looked into it. And it turns out, and I'm not going to give the people's names because I made a promise to them that I wouldn't do it. But the guy who was responsible for that video had several YouTube videos, and or YouTube channels, excuse me. And he was promoting that video on several YouTube channels. They had gone out and promoted it to all their local newspapers, and they were all BYU students, Brigham Young students at the time, but they were all related. They were family. Anyway, it turns out he's a filmmaker, and amateur filmmaker, but he's a filmmaker, and he does a lot of those, you make the commercials for the Doritos things, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I finally figured out all the names of all the people, and they went by Beard Card, which was a dead giveaway that they were BYU students, because at BYU, a beard card means you're allowed to grow a beard for certain circumstances, if a health reason or something like that. I don't know what a health reason would be, but anyway, you get a card that says you're allowed to grow a beard because all the students there have to shave if they're a male. And I hope the female students do too, but at least some parts. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, it goes on, and I finally contact Beard Card, the real person. I figured out, his first name was Brent, but I won't give his last name. And his wife responds to me, and she tears me a fucking new one because she thought, and I was going to go public with their names, and this is what was really going on. And but anyway, it turned out to be a bunch of bullshit. They later made another video, a music video. I don't know if you ever saw that one, Chris, but it was based on the same event, and it had some of the same scenes in it, but you could tell that they were filmed at the same time.
Right.
So it was a bunch of bullshit. They later went on to do a GoFundMe campaign about a year ago, which was probably about a year after and they wanted, everybody, and they use their real faces, but they still won't use their real names. I don't know. It was a bunch of bullshit, but I was pressured by certain Bigfoot blog not to go public with this, with the information that I had, because it might ruin people's lives or careers, or they were students. You shouldn't do this. And, at that time I was a little naive to how things worked in the Bigfoot community. So I never did, and that's indicative of some of this research that you do. You get pressured into doing certain things that you're not happy doing, I guess, or not comfortable doing, but you do them because maybe it is the right thing to do, and I think that's why a lot of people, I don't know if that's why they say they see Bigfoot when they don't.
It's all about promotion and money. It's all
for
about
some people,
promotion and fucking money. I'm taken to, and I hate to stay on Bigfoot. It's just the easiest one. We know a lot about it. I don't,
Right.
I don't follow a lot of the fucking Loch Ness monster researchers. We've talked to Jay Cooney. I'm very much interested in it. It's just I don't hear a lot about the Loch Ness monster research unless something comes out, and we don't see a lot of it. So I hate to stay on Bigfoot, but Bigfoot's one where it's like, it's fairly easy. There's almost always something in the news lately about it.
There was, I want to go back to the Provo thing, because there was one piece of information that really never got made public, and I think it was the most important piece to that puzzle. The one piece of information that it was a little bit public, it kind of made its rounds a little bit, but nobody really saw it. That same day that was filmed, allegedly filmed, a woman reported to her local news site, because they picked up the story when it came out on YouTube. She said, I was just up in Provo Canyon. I seen these guys dressing up in a suit, and they had the cameras and everything. And I tried to contact the woman, and she never got back to me. But nobody, and I was actually pressured not to use that part.
Right.
So it is, in some cases, in some circumstances, promotion. If it gets you YouTube hits or blog hits, it's fair game, and you're going to hold back certain parts of the story because that's bad for the story. You know what I mean?
Not me. I'm not going to fucking hold it back.
You're not, and anymore I will. If I get that kind of information now, I'm going out with it. But back then, when I didn't know this is the way things work, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't put this stuff out. And it's no offense to the person who told me this stuff. I just didn't know what the fuck I was doing back then.
Right.
And I wish I had. I wish I did, because that Provo thing still would have become viral. They still would have made a lot of money off of it. But I'm sitting here at home, my old home, thinking, I'm part of this group of people who are promoting this bullshit, but I want to be a part of this group, but you know, it was a big conflict for me, and I still have conflicts over that. So that was just one of the things. There's been a lot more.
Yeah, I recently there was that Turner, Maine Bigfoot, and
Right.
I know for pretty much fact that the gentleman that quote unquote researched that fucking video
His birthday is today, by the way.
knew that was a fucking hoax before he promoted it. Before.
Well, you know, and that's the way a lot of things go. I think, you know, we did a show recently on the Roswell slides. I think they know exactly what they got.
Oh, yeah.
Bullshit. But yet they're making it this all-time biggest UFO event ever. We're going to reveal these slides. It's the same thing, you know, and no matter who comes out against it, I can't remember the gentleman. I want to say Chris Radamaki or something like, I can't remember his name, but he's done a lot of research into the background of this stuff, and it just all turns out to be a bunch of fucking bullshit. And that's the way it is with cryptid research for the most part. There's the other side of it too. Some people just want to believe so badly that there's a Bigfoot out there, or there's a Chupacabra, or space aliens, or whatever, that everything they see is that. So they're not really hoaxers, but they're, I don't know, what would you call them? Wishful thinkers? Or
They're
something?
fucking, it's a bunch of fucking backyard researchers is what it is.
Right, and I'm right there with them. I'm a backyard researcher. I really don't know what the fuck I'm doing when I'm out in the field, you know, because who does?
It stuns me on every fucking level that people will sit there and like fucking bow down to the Finding Bigfoot crew. Like they are, you know, the end all to fucking Bigfoot information. Like Matt Moneymaker and Bobo and, you know, Cliff and Renee. I don't see
have a lot
those
of
two
respect
as
for
much
Cliff.
as Moneymaker and Bobo in you know, their quasi expert bullshit, I guess you could call it. But I have about as much information about Bigfoot as Matt Moneymaker.
Right, and I have a lot of respect for Cliff. I don't know Renee that well.
She's pretty hot.
I've only spoken. Well, you've met her, but I've only spoken to her that time you met her. You know, we did that show, and she was there, and so I really don't know her that well. I don't know Matt Moneymaker that well, except for his Twitter shit and what I see on Finding Bigfoot, and I don't know Bobo that well. But out of the whole cast, I have only really spoken to Cliff and at length, and Cliff is really out there trying to do the right thing. However, I still think he at times jumps to conclusions that he shouldn't. You know,
because if you're
respect
out
the
looking
guy.
for Bigfoot, you're going to find Bigfoot.
Right.
And it's, if
If
you're
you're
out
out
looking
looking
for
for
the
ghosts, you're gonna find
Chupacabra,
ghosts.
yeah, exactly. It's indicative all the way through.
And that's what I've always had an issue with. I can go to a location out in the woods, and I can see Bigfoot activity there, and a ghost hunter can go there and see ghost activity in the same exact spot. And why is that? Because that's what you're looking for, and it doesn't necessarily actually exist. You know, because you can make anything you want appear to be Bigfoot activity, or ghost activity, or Chupacabra, whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I struggle when I'm trying to, you know, when I go out in the field, which is not very often. I haven't been out for a while, but when I do, I'm thinking to myself, now, is this just me wanting to see something? And that's how everybody should actually approach it. And I'm still going to make mistakes if I go out there and, you know, I've seen alleged footprints before, but I'm going out there with the idea that, okay, I'm not going to find shit. And I usually don't, you know, because I'm not trying to go out there to find Bigfoot. I'm going out there to see, well, maybe I can, but I usually am doing something else at the time. I'm metal detecting, or, you know, looking for arrowheads or something, so that I have something else on my mind when I go out there. But I'm an amateur. So is everybody else.
Right.
You know, there's very few scientific people who actually look into this stuff. And those that do,
They get
usually
jaded
are in it
really
for
fucking
something.
quick.
Right. And they're usually in it for some other reason. Maybe at the beginning they were really looking for scientific proof of something, but it doesn't last long usually.
My thing is, if you've had a quote unquote Bigfoot, Chupacabra, whatever sighting, and you are going to do research, do scientific research.
Right.
No one does it. They just, oh, I have this video. Oh, I'm going to start just taking videos. It doesn't, there's no recording of information. There's no, daily fucking logs. There's no real scientific process going on. It's just, here's a video, we think it's a Bigfoot, or we think it's a fucking Chupacabra, or we think it's a fucking ghost, or a UFO, or the Loch Ness Monster, or whatever. And
there are a few people out there who try, and they try really hard to take a more scientific approach, but they're not scientists. I remember the thermal thing from Bart Catino out in the Sierras, and that was a really good investigation, but it's still not scientific because none of those people who are there are scientists, and they don't really.
And it wasn't done
they're
scientifically.
making it up as they go. Well, it probably wasn't in the terms that we know science, but in their minds, I mean, and our buddy Bob worked on the video portion of it, and he's very good at what he does, but he's not a scientist either, so we're just doing what we're doing as amateurs. So unless we have some sort of science involved, legitimate, and right now we have I don't care who it is, there's no legitimate science involved in any of this cryptid research at all.
No.
I can't name one. Now, I like Dr. Todd Disotell, but he's after a TV show. Come on.
Yeah, he's trying. He's just promoting himself like everybody else.
Right.
Because he promotes himself
on the skeptic side.
Right, because he promotes himself as a skeptical asshole, it doesn't make it any better.
Right. Now, if he found some DNA and he said it was Bigfoot, I'd probably believe the guy. However, because he's such a skeptic, but he's not necessarily, and I like Todd. I've had some conversations with him. He's a good guy, but he's not afraid to tell you that he's after a television show. They've had YouTube videos. Him and Natalia Reagan have had YouTube videos saying that's what they want, a TV show about this stuff. So that's the motivation.
I'd have sex with Natalia Reagan, Steve, just for the record.
I can't say either way.
I can, and I will.
I would say, but no, that's not going to happen.
But and it's all over, and it kind of I guess I kind of shouldn't let it get to me. It shouldn't bother me, but it does.
Well, if you're out there looking for answers, and for us, it's pretty much a hobby. I mean, we're not out there every day looking for Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or Champ or whatever, or UFOs, and we're not out there every day. For me, it's a hobby, and I enjoy it immensely. But it gets sickening going on Facebook and seeing all the bullshit and YouTube and even the National Geographic shows on this stuff. It's all hype and bullshit. And so anybody can get on TV and say, hey, I've had a Bigfoot sighting and this is what happened. And I mean, just watch Finding Bigfoot once. You'll see,
Yeah, exactly. And
they have to throw debunking in there once in a while. But they're not legitimate debunkings. They're just, I got to do this, so here's a debunking,
Yeah, and it irritates the absolute piss out of me. I've watched one Finding Bigfoot episode. One. That's it.
Finding Bigfoot is actually what got me into the social side of Bigfoot research. And it's only because of one individual who appeared on one show back in the first season. I think it was the first season. I hadn't really watched the show that much. I think it was actually the first show I watched. It was the Ohio episode. And I really enjoyed the guy's story. In fact, I eventually got to meet him, Tim Stover out of Ohio. And that guy, to me, seemed legitimate. And that's what got me into the social side of Bigfoot. And then it was downhill from there.
Yeah.
You know,
once you're in, you're fucked.
Yeah, and then why is it so hard to get out? You know, it's like a fucking gang or something. You got to be, well, you got to be initiated to get in.
The problem is, Steve, is that
out.
you already have an innate interest in it. You know, like I had an innate interest in the phenomenon long before I ever picked up a fucking microphone, a computer, and started doing this shit.
Right, same here.
I had seen the Patterson-Gimlin footage. I had, of course, heard the Roswell story. Heard when I was extremely young, I read in a book. It was in my 4th grade class. There was a whole book on cryptozoology or cryptids, and there was a story about Bigfoot in there. I think it was the Patterson-Gimlin story. And then there was a story about Mothman. It was the story of the children that were out by the TNT plant, the TNT bunkers there, and they were like sucking face up there, and then the fucking Mothman comes up and it followed them fucking back to their house while they were in the vehicle, and it was at the house when they got to the house. That was the story that was in that book. You know, there was a Thunderbird story in there, the story of the kid that got picked up off the fucking playground or whatever. So I already had this innate interest. Be it skeptical, I have an innate interest. Now, fast forward, and now there's all this information out there. There's the internet. There's all this real-time updating of all these stories and stuff. And after seeing it for a while and seeing all the horse shit, that was the inception of this show.
Right. Pretty much.
Like, it's like there's so much shit. Let's just fucking take a look at it like that. Like, yeah, we have an interest. We want to, quote unquote, we want to believe.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking, that quote, I want to believe, and that's why, I mean, from a young age, even like elementary school, but more towards the middle school years or junior high years, I started going to my school library, which was a pretty liberal library. We had a lot of good books on UFOs, and we had books on Bigfoot, and I remember reading a book about Uri Geller, the guy who used to bend spoons and shit like that.
With
and that's
string?
What got me interested. Yeah, well, it was all fake, of course, but it didn't matter to me that the stories weren't all real. What mattered to me is that the possibility that some of them were real was there.
Right.
And that's what, and I still think that. I still think that the possibility that Bigfoot is out there is a good possibility, or at least, 50-50. Chupacabra, probably not, those kinds of things. Loch Ness Monster, I'm still torn on, that kind of thing. But I
have a renewed interest in the Loch Ness Monster after talking with Jay Cooney.
Well, the thing is, you have, and I think what Jay really says is, you get these stories from all over the place. It's not just Loch Ness, but you got it in Lake Champlain, you got them in Lake Erie. I'm sure you've got lake monster or sea monster stories up your way, and even if one of those is true,
right.
And that's why I want to continue.
Or if it's true, but it's just a misidentification.
Right.
Or it's not exactly what they think it is, or whatever. And I think the idea of lake monsters or ocean monsters are far more possible than anything on land. The ocean is so vast, we have not even begun to scratch the surface of all of the area that is the ocean.
Well, I guarantee there's some sort of lake or a sea monster out there that we don't know about.
Right.
Because
we're finding shit all the fucking time, Steve.
Right.
You know, every time I turn around, we found a new species of this on the fucking ocean floor, and even on land, they're finding new species of creatures. Like I was listening
No.
to David on Jeff's show the other. They were talking about a fucking monkey that they just found that has to be identified by its penis. It's identical
Penis monkey.
in every way to another monkey except for its fucking dick.
That's cool. Though.
You know?
I mean, because it looks just like another monkey, so it's never been identified before, is what you're saying.
Right.
That's cool.
But it's a completely different, offshoot. So
Right.
we're finding shit all the time. Mountain gorillas. People didn't think fucking mountain gorillas were real forever.
But they were.
And fucking the natives were like, listen, there's fucking big ape men in the fucking woods. And everybody's like, you stupid fucking native people.
Right.
And then all of a sudden somebody fucking saw one. And the rest is fucking history. Now we know that there are mountain gorillas.
Now, do I believe Bigfoot exists in all 50 states and all that bullshit because there's sightings in all except for Hawaii?
You don't believe in the Hawaiian Bigfoot?
Does Bigfoot live in Salt Fork State Park in Ohio? Probably not. But Pacific Northwest, well, that's a good possibility, And so that's what continues my interest in it, because there is a possibility of an unknown, although probably not as we.
What kind of Bigfoot you got there? That's the Maui Wowie Bigfoot. That must be that Hawaiian Bigfoot.
But, you go back in history, and exactly the town that I live in has a lot of history of like giant skeletons and things like that. So in history, there is possible evidence, because none of those skeletons exist that we know of today, but except I think the Lovelock Cave ones. I'm not sure on that, but I'd have to look into it. But anyway, so was there a giant race of human-like people or humans or Bigfoots? Yeah, there probably was. But is there now? That's the question, But then I look at the Patterson-Gimlin film and I see more of a real creature than I do of a hoax going on there with what they had back then.
Well, so, yeah, when I look at the Patterson-Gimlin film, I look at the time period. When I'm not looking at the Patterson-Gimlin footage, I'm not looking at it as it's presented today. I'm looking at it as it's presented then. And with the technology that they had back then, even if you were to stretch it a little bit and say, well, maybe they had this stuff that came out a little bit later, I don't think that suit could have occurred at that point in time.
Roger Patterson was basically a rodeo guy, and he did know how to do some leather work and stuff like that. Was he the greatest guy on earth? Probably not. But that doesn't necessarily... Nobody's sufficiently debunked it, even close to debunked it, in my opinion. So that is one of the things that still holds my interest in this whole cryptozoology world. Because how the fuck did he pull that off?
Right.
And
at that point in time, with that technology, how the fuck did they do it? If somebody can explain it to me like I'm a fucking 4-year-old and make me believe them, I'm all in with the fact that it's a hoax.
Agreed.
But until then, it looks too fucking good. I was just recently re-looking at it when I posted on the blog, the forteanslip.blogspot.com, the Bill Munn's, what was that? Where he got the high-def images from the original copy from Mrs. Patterson.
Right.
And, looking at that, I just, I see a creature. And until somebody can prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that I don't see a creature in that film, then I see a creature. Yeah, the Freeman footage. And as much as people, bitch about Paul Freeman with the whole hoaxing bullshit. What was it? He got caught like hoaxing some tracks or some shit.
No.
No?
He admitted to making fake tracks on like an ABC News thing, but it wasn't because he was out there hoaxing. He was doing it to compare to what he thought were real tracks. Is how the story goes. So, right. So, if you listen to what he says, yeah, I've made some fake casts, but he doesn't say I made them to hoax people. He just says I made them to compare what I'm finding out in the field to what people do to make fake tracks. So was he a hoaxer? I don't know. It's still up for debate.
Yeah,
now,
that one's a lot. That one's a lot harder.
Right.
That one's a bit more of a stretch, if you ask me.
And I can tell you, I haven't seen one Chupacabra film that I find convincing. I have seen a few UFO things that I think could be. No Loch Ness Monster ones yet that really...
Yeah, nothing.
Except for the underwater ones that I was talking to Jay about on that one show we did with Jay. The underwater ones from the 70s, those ones look like flippers and things. Those ones kind of convincing. But generally, for the most part, even with Bigfoot, the only one that I find convincing so far is the Patterson-Gimlin film.
And then my problem with it, Steve, is this: the Patterson-Gimlin film was taken in 1969. 1967.
Yes.
Am I off by 2 years? No, I'm no fucking expert. Let's put it that way. So 1967, this fucking film is made. We're now in 2015. Everybody's got a fucking camera on their phone. Literally, almost everyone has a fucking camera. Right. And there are tons of people out doing quote-unquote research, which, as we've spoken on this show, we don't believe it to be research. Because it's not true scientific research. But out of all of these people, we seriously can't get one decent fucking video. That's the part where it gets to me, where it's like, that's where it brings me back down to the very skeptical level of, yeah, it's all a bunch of bullshit. Because we don't see anything. But I'd love to see the next Patterson-Gimlin footage. I'd love to see it.
And the ones that come out, and I'm taking back to the whole Norm Glasser thing that I got caught up in with, and it looked somewhat convincing. It looked, wow, this is pretty cool. It's the face of something.
Right.
And it turned out to be a hoax. So the ones that do look convincing ultimately turn out to be nothing, because generally 99.9% of them are proven pretty quickly to be hoaxes. So, and the ones that aren't are probably hoaxes, except for the one that I can think of, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
and that goes with everything. That doesn't go just for Bigfoot. I mean, every Chupacabra video is a hoax because there is no Chupacabra.
You going on record for that one, Steve?
I am going on record saying there is, even though I still like the Chupacabra. I like the idea of the Chupacabra. I like the idea of something like that.
Right.
But how many times it's morphed over the years from this demon-looking creature to
a hairless dog.
Basically, or a raccoon or whatever it is. That kind of gives you pause, Now, Bigfoot has stayed the same primarily over the years. The descriptions, there's minor differences. But like your space aliens, back in the 50s, they were very human looking, and now they look like little the grays, I mean, so how can you buy any of that shit,
I have a hard time.
So you got to make up 57 varieties.
Dude, I have a hard time with all of it. Like we've said, we're very, very interested.
Mm-hmm.
very, very skeptical.
And I'm going to continue looking into it because I enjoy every minute of it, even the bullshit sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I want to drag myself to the nearest tree and throw a rope around it. But I haven't done it yet. I still come back, and I still got to do it. And I don't know. There's something psychologically wrong with us, Chris.
There's always going to be.
Yeah.
Don't you have some news, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. And for the record, Steve, for a fucking subject that we just fucking pulled out of our ass, we went way long.
Hey, people enjoy it. So, whatever. You know, all three of our listeners. I think we picked up a new listener this week, so now we have four listeners. In our first story, and this is a special story for Mr. Matt Knapp, if he's listening tonight. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp claims that a Chupacabra attacked him. We've heard the exhaustion excuse from stars who miss events, but attacked by a Chupacabra? You have to hand it to Johnny Depp for that one. That's what he said was his reason for missing a news conference for his new movie, whatever the hell that's called, Mordecai, in Tokyo on Tuesday. He's 51 already? Holy fuck. 51-year-old actor laughed and joked with journalists at a press conference Wednesday as he explained why he was a no-show the day before, reports the AP. Depp said that he had been battling a cold, but said that wasn't the real reason for his absence. I was attacked yesterday morning by a very rarely seen or experienced animal called a chupacabra. I fought with it for hours. They're very persistent, very mean, and I'm pretty sure it came into my suitcase.
It fucking jacked off in his suitcase?
That's what it says. It came into his suitcase.
Wow. I
threw him off the 23rd floor, so we'll never see him again. Thank you for understanding, he said.
This is Chupacabra country.
Chupacabra, of course, is a legendary mythical creature that likes to drink the blood of livestock.
Wait till we start seeing those Chupacabras.
When asked what his character in the film would do if he was in the room, Depp replied, he would probably say something like, "How do you do? My name is Charlie Mordecai. And I've come here to take as much money from you as I possibly can, and jewelry and art and stuff." Mordecai, Depp's latest box office bomb, is set for release in Japan on February 6th. That's what the story says. His box office bomb.
Oh,
God. Yeah. And here's the real reason, and I think what our show is all about tonight. Cashing in by retracing steps of mystical beast, Bigfoot.
Beast?
Could the mystical... Yeah, beast. The mystical beast. Could the mystical beast Bigfoot help step up tourism in the Washington County town of Whitehall, as legendary lake monster champ has done to entice visitors in Lake Champlain? Last month, about 200 people with an interest in Bigfoot, a hulking man-ape creature said to have been spotted outside of town several times in the 70s, crowded into a former armory turned into an athletic club for several hours to tell stories to a film crew from the Animal Planet show Finding Bigfoot. Bigfoot did not make an appearance at the Whitehall Athletic Club, said manager Beth.
Unless you consider Bobo's fucking genetic fucking material.
But she did spot a number of out-of-town license plates, and a movie or video just started on the website and it threw me off. She did see a lot of out-of-town license plates in the parking lot, and then, of course, a light bulb went off in her head and said, "Cha-ching!" I saw plates from New Hampshire and Maryland, and we definitely had people in town for it. While alleged Bigfoot sightings happened decades ago, the creature is part of the area's history, but it also includes being the birthplace of the U.S. Navy during the Revolutionary War. Last year, the athletic club held a Bigfoot Fest featuring local music, food, and traveling Bigfoot artifacts. A few blocks away along scenic Champlain Canal, the Historic Grounds restaurant has added Bigfoot breakfast sandwiches to the menu. It's 2 eggs, 2 cheese, and 2 meats. It's a really big sandwich, said owner Nat Huntington.
Oh, isn't that fucking cunning?
In other words, we want to make some cash. Bigfoot's a good idea. Let's cash in. And that's what that whole story's about. You can read the rest of it at timesunion.com because I'm done.
Yeah, because it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and that goes back to our whole show tonight, what Bigfoot and most cryptid research really is about. Cashing in. Money. And your favorite story of the evening, Chris, from thecannabist.co. Sanjay Gupta says the U.S. should legalize medical marijuana now. CNN's Top Doc says it's time we should legalize marijuana.
I agree, Sanjay.
We should do it nationally, and we should do it now. CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, is back at it. The cable network's Top Doc will debate...
Spit it out, son.
Gone. The cable network's Top Doc will debut
Jesus Christ.
Debut his third documentary on medical marijuana, Weed 3, The Marijuana Revolution, on Sunday, a.k.a. 420 Eve. I get it. And while Gupta has taken bold stances on the legitimacy of medical marijuana
Holy
before,
shit.
he's about to go all in. My son is back behind me because I'm in a shut-off room where nobody can get in, and he still comes in. And so I'm going all weird on you, Chris.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just like I knew would happen, Steve, by the way.
I know, and you predicted it before the show. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, it's time for a medical marijuana revolution, he says. In the piece, Gupta struggles with his own professional journalistic distance and objectivity, but ultimately comes out with his boldest declaration on medical pot yet. Journalists shouldn't take a position. It makes sense. Objectivity is king. But at some point, open questions do get answered. At some point, contentious issues do get resolved. At some point, common sense prevails. So here it is. We should legalize marijuana. We should do it nationally, and we should do it now. Sanjay Gupta. And that, Chris, is the news.
Sanjay Gupta is the man.
I agree.
This has been episode 72 of the Fortean Slip, the Joan Get Me a Snapple episode. If you like this shit, hit the like button. If you don't, hit the thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Don't leave a comment. Leave a shitty comment. Go fuck yourself. I really don't care.
Come in Johnny Depp's suitcase.
Yeah. I would. Who wouldn't? I'd Spider-Man in fucking Johnny Depp's suitcase. I'd come in my hand and throw it into his fucking suitcase and go, Spider-Man. And don't forget, share this shit around. Makes us very, very happy.
Agreed.